Welcome to the PhotographyBB Artistic Reflections Photoshop Action tutorial. I'm Dave Seram, the Editor-in-Chief and Photoshop Action Developer here at PhotographyBB, and today I'm going to walk you through how to use our brand new Artistic Reflections Photoshop Action. Now this action performs two different effects in one. The first is that it will convert a photograph into a digital painting. And we have three different styles of painting to choose from. And the second thing that this action does is to create a nice sort of ripply water reflection type of effect on the painting of your subject and of your image. So how we're going to use this action is first by installing the action after you've downloaded it. And to install the action, it's really easy. We're going to go up to the menu in Photoshop here that says Window, and then go to Actions. Then we click on this little flyout menu at the top corner here, and we're going to scroll down to Load Actions, and then simply choose the PhotographyBB Artistic Reflections action file that you've downloaded to your computer. So click on that and click Open, and that is going to install the Artistic Reflections action folder here, which you can toggle open and closed in the Actions panel. So now if we toggle it open again, you will see that there are three different styles: Style 1, Style 2, Style 3. These are the different art style conversions that we have. So they have different sort of artistic effects. One is an illustration, one is a little softer like a watercolor type of style, and the other one is like a pencil drawing in color with some edge work on these type of graphic effect here. And the last one we have is something that we've added in if you don't want to have any artistic conversion and you just want to have the reflection effect on the natural photograph itself. We have the photo style there as well for you. So you can choose any one of these styles. So I'm going to work with this image right here that we have open in the background of this fancy looking car here. And I'm going to choose Style 1 for this effect. Actually, no, we're going to go with Style 3 because I like the sort of hard edges that Style 3 has here. So all we need to do to run this effect is just click on whichever style we want. I'm going to click on Style 3, and then click on the play button here at the bottom of the Actions panel. And the action is going to run through a series of steps, and it's going to pop up with some prompts for us to follow here. So as you'll see in a moment, it's just going to give me a prompt. Right now it's doing the artistic conversion part of the action. And here's the prompt that I was talking about here. So it says, next, hold down Shift while dragging the orange box, this box here, up or down to select your reflection area. The top edge of the orange box is where the reflection will begin. So basically everything that is uncovered is going to remain, and everything that is covered will turn into the reflection. So let's do this now. So it says after we've moved the orange box, we're going to hit Enter to set that area. So click Continue to do this now. So we're going to click Continue. I'm actually going to move the Actions panel out of the way here. I'm going to close it by hitting this little arrow. And again, I'm going to hold down Shift and drag this orange box up and down. So I want my reflection to start right about here. I think it'll look nice right there for this image. And then again, we're just going to click Enter, or you can click the checkbox up here to set that area. So I'm going to hit Enter, and the action is going to continue running. And in a moment, it's going to pop up with another prompt for me here as well, and I'll show you what that does. So now it says, next, save the following ripple effect map Photoshop document file to your computer. You'll be using this file in a moment. So we're going to click to continue to do this now. And it's just going to ask me where I want to save this particular file. So I'm going to save it just on the desktop, and I'm going to click Save. And now it tells me, next we're going to use that file that we just saved. It's called pbbRippleMap.psd, and we're going to follow these two steps. So number one, when the displacement map box appears, we're going to click OK. And then after that, when prompted, we're going to choose the PBB Ripple Effect PSD file and click Open. So click Continue to do this now. So here's the displacement dialog box. We're just going to click OK. And then it's going to ask us to locate that file that we saved earlier. So here's the PBB Ripple map that we saved earlier. I'm going to click on that and click Open. And that's going to apply the ripples to this reflected area here. And there we go. That looks pretty cool. So now this is actually the completed effect. And it does give us the option here, lastly, to crop the final image to our liking. We can just click on continue to complete that. So let's do that now. We'll hit continue. And I'm just going to pinch with my trackpad here to zoom out a little bit. And I can drag the corner anchors here to where I want to crop my image. So I actually like it maybe right at the bottom of the reflection, right about there. And I'm just going to hit enter, or again hit that little check mark to set that area. And that's our final image. So if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see that I have a really cool artistic effect on the car itself. It looks like a drawing or an illustration. And then I've got that excellent soft looking ripple water reflection effect there as well. Now, one of the things we can do here, I'm going to drag my layers palette up a little bit, is we have a lot of optional customization controls that we're left with at the end. Now, this is the completed effect. We are actually done, but I always like to build in a number of different controls that you can take things further if you're a little bit more advanced user, or if you're learning how to use Photoshop. This is a great way to discover some of the features that Photoshop has. Now, your layers palette should look tidy like this, but some versions of Photoshop will leave these folders toggled open, and you'll have this big mess of layers like that. Now, if that is the case, you're going to hold down Command and Option on a Mac, or Control and Alt on a PC, and then just click on that little top arrow, and that will tidy everything up, and it'll close all of those layer folders to make it look like this. So we'll start from the top and work our way down. So with this top layer, we have some tonal options for our image. So we can toggle that open to see what we have. We have a layer here that says darken image. So if I turn that layer on, it's going to darken the image. So for some images, that's going to help. And for this image, it doesn't really help us at all. You can also reduce the effect of this by controlling the opacity slider here as well. So I'm going to turn off darken image. Now, if we wanted to brighten the image, same thing. We can turn on the visibility of this layer. And again, we can control that with the opacity slider here for a different effect. I actually like the way that the original image came out, so I'll turn that off. We can add some vibrance to the color here. So if I turn that on, it doesn't really do much at this point, but what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this little icon right here, and that brings up some controls. So if we want to, we can really crank up the vibrance and the saturation, but again, it's a little bit too hot for this image. So what we'll do is we'll just turn that off for this particular photo. And the last thing we can control in the tonal options here is the contrast. So again, it's on by default, and we've added just a slight amount of contrast, which looks really good for this style, as you can see here. And if you want more control over that, again, double click on that little icon, and you can control the curve here. So you can darken some of the dark areas, brighten some of the bright areas, and just give it a bit more contrast. But we'll just go with that for now. And I'm going to close up the tonal options folder stack here. And we'll move down to the next one. So color options. Now we have a number of different color options that we can apply to this final effect. And these are going to affect the overall image, as you'll see here. So I'm going to toggle that open. We can set a color mood by adding sort of a color overlay to the photo. So if I turn the visibility on, you'll see how that impacts this image. Kind of gives it a nice little tone for this image. And if I don't like that particular tone, I can double click the color swatch here, and we can choose any tone we want. We can go with the blue, move it into the purples, reds, anywhere you like. And then once you have found a tone, you have further control over how vibrant you want that to be, or you can maybe draw it back a little bit into the grays. And that's totally up to you how you want to customize this. So that gives you sort of a color overlay that you can apply to the image, and you would click OK to apply that. I'm going to click Cancel here, and I'll turn off this color mood layer. And then we have some more options here. So we have a black and white conversion. So if I turn that on, it turns everything into black and white. This looks really cool with some photographs, but we have a nice vibrant color car here, so we're going to leave that in color. And then we have 10 different color options available to us here. And all we have to do to view these is toggle the visibility of these on and off. And these apply different color filters. This one actually looks really good. I like this one, but we'll go through a few of them here so you can see. And you can just toggle these on and off to see what you like. Now, if you come across one like this, which is a little bit too strong, but you like the look of it, you can click on that layer to make it active. And we can actually draw down the opacity so that we still have this effect, but it's not quite as strong. And as you can see, by toggling the visibility on and off, I still have that style of color, but I can sort of adjust the strength by changing the opacity of that color layer. I'm going to go back to color option 1 because I really did like the way that this one looks here. So we'll keep that one. And I'll toggle this color options folder closed. We can move on to the next one. So the artwork layers, this controls the sort of top half of the photo, everything above the reflection. So if I toggle that open, we have a few different options here. We have we have brightness and contrast controls for the top option here. And again, to control that, I just double click on that. And if I want, I can really brighten up the top. Oh yeah, well, maybe a little bit is good. We can change the contrast if we need to. 0 is fine. Toggle that close. So we'll keep that on. I like the way that that looks. Now we have tone controls, similar to what we were looking at earlier with the overall tone of the image, but now we have a tone control for just the top half of the image. And for certain images, you may want that flexibility to be able to control the top half and the bottom half separately. So again, clicking on that color swatch, we have options. We can change the color tone of the image here, maybe a little purple, maybe it's a little bit too much. And we can click OK if we like that. We can apply that there, or we can turn the visibility off completely, and you can see how it just affects the top half of the image. I kind of like it without, so I'll leave it without for now. And we have a gradient overlay as well, just to give the image some depth on top, and by toggling that on and off, you can see how it affects. It just kind of adds some darkening to the top section and drawing it down to nothing at the bottom section. So once again, we have this overlay, and we can change the opacity if you want to strengthen that or weaken that. I like it around 10%. Let's go with that. We also have one other control that I'd like to show you. If you toggle open this effects box here, we have a drop shadow effect. Now on this particular image, because it's pretty dark underneath the tires of the car, it's not going to be as pronounced, but what it does is this applies a little bit of a shadow right there. You can see to the transition area between the photograph or the artwork and the reflected area here. So if we want, we can remove that shadow. You can double click on it to adjust the distance and the depth and size of that shadow and the strength here with the opacity. So you have some control over just that little shadow strip that runs across the transition area between the art and the reflection. So I'll say cancel there. So that is the control options that we have available for the top half, the artwork layers. And we have similar controls for the reflected areas. So we'll go with reflection controls. We can open that up. And again, we have a brightness and contrast control. So if I double click that, I can control the brightness of the reflection. Brighter actually looks pretty good. We can control the contrast of that as well. Let's go with less contrast. We have a tone on the reflection as well. So again, double clicking it, I can change that color tone. So I like that kind of a purplish. It's kind of cool. Let's go with maybe something in that range right there. That looks good. Click OK. And again, we have a reflection gradient. So if I toggle that on and off, you'll see it applies this sort of gradiated darkening from the top down to the bottom, which just gives the reflection a little bit of depth as kind of pulls you into the image a little bit further. And the reflection layer as well, as we have this little effects icon like the last one, we can control the drop shadow on that sort of transition area. Just makes it a little bit more smooth and gives that some separation between the two. So we've added some controls in there for you. So I'm going to toggle these closed, and lastly, we have a color fill layer as the background of this image. And the reason we have this is because on some images you'll find if you click on the reflection controls for this reflected area here, and we lower the opacity down, it actually gives a really nice effect like this. So we can kind of control the strength of the reflection, how much of it we're seeing, and bring it, to where we like it. For some images, it looks more realistic to lower it down a little bit. And for this one, because it's really heavy on the art, I like it kind of high. So I'll leave it all the way up. If you do want to lower it down, you do have some control by clicking on this color swatch of what color you want the underneath layer, the background layer, to be. So you can give it a little bit of style by changing the color. We'll leave it at white. I'm going to move it back up the reflection controls layer. I'm going to increase the opacity again to bring that sort of full depth effect back on the reflection control. And that is how you use the action. I hope you have a lot of fun with this particular effect. There's a few different styles, as I mentioned, to choose from. I encourage you to play with all of them and see which one works best for your images. Crop them differently, have a lot of fun experimenting with these controls, and I hope you get a lot of use out of this one. Thanks again, folks, and happy Photoshopping.